Monster RX93.1 presents Heard on Thursdays. Hot conversations on hot topics. Your host, JC Tevez.
Hey, what's going on, Monsters? Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us here on a Thursday evening. How's everyone doing so far? The show continues after the daily survey for more hot conversations here on Heard on Thursdays. The show that made FM radio talk heard only on Manila's hottest Monster RX 93.1. Now, you would think that writing would be one of the freest and most independent of creative jobs. You can do it on your own time, wherever you are, whoever you are, and whatever your station is in life. But even freelance writing has its risks and responsibilities. You may not have a boss, but you also worry about who's there to take care of you and protect your work. So enter tonight's guests from the Freelance Writers Guild of the Philippines, or FWGP. The guild is composed of freelance writing professionals from various sectors. It is a legitimate workers' association recognized by the Department of Labor and Employment, and its mission is to protect the welfare of Filipino freelance writers and to support the professional development of its members. We have as guests Aimee Morales. She is the founder and past president of the guild and the current head of advocacy and external relations committee. She is a published author. Among her works is an ebook containing lessons on writing. She is currently working on a book of poems. As a freelance writer and editor, Aimee works with corporate clients, newspapers and magazines, and various government and non-government agencies, among others. We also have Tuni John Balisi, her head of the Organizational Development Committee of the Freelance Writers Guild. Balisi is a self-professed book geek who writes, reads, and collects books. An anthropologist by training, he is currently into collecting Philippine anthropology books published during the American colonial regime. Aside from his volunteer work for the Guild, Balisi serves as Director 1 at the National Book Development Board. So tonight, joining us on Heard on Thursdays, Aimee Morales and Tuni John Balisi of the Freelance Writers Guild of the Philippines. Good evening, Tuni. Good evening, Aimee. How are you?
Hello, good evening. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you for inviting us for
Yeah.
your radio station, radio program tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, good evening, everybody.
Good evening. All right. So the first question I always ask on these on Heard on Thursdays, besides your work, what has been keeping you busy? Have you been watching anything new on Netflix, or are you into? Did you start taking up baking? What have you been busy with outside of your work with the Freelance Writers Guild? Let's start with Tuni.
Yeah, actually, during my free time, what I usually do is book hunting. So,
Mm.
yeah, as I mentioned earlier, that I'm a book geek. I love books. I'm a bibliophile. So, uh, during my free time, it's usually book hunting. So, looking for antiquarian books, for old books, and it's quite interesting to go to various unexplored shops in Metro Manila. So that's what I'm keeping myself busy with.
I love that. I love that. Can you do that online as well? Like, can you do online book hunting, or is it really do you have to be there in person to find
Well,
hidden
well, you
gems?
can do it online on several social media marketplaces, but it's really fun if you get to visit this secret places, secret book places in Metro Manila. So you have a lot here in Metro Manila, and you have two in Quezon City. You have one in Pasay. You have one in Pasig. So it really interesting. If you're a book lover, if you love books, it's really interesting to look and smell the pages of books. Yeah.
I love it. How about you, Amy? Amy, what's been keeping you busy?
I go to the grocery. I,
Me too. I do too.
and then I sleep. I don't
Nice.
I don't really have a lot of free time, but with the little time that I have extra, I
Mhm.
like uh, I like working out in the morning. But
Okay.
that's not I can't do that every day anymore. So I'm
Mhm.
into qigong and arnis, and I also read, try to read a lot, and I write in my journal. Aside from that, not much else.
Okay, that's fine. I like the way you mentioned growth because even pre-pandemic, no one said, "Oh, this week I went grocery shopping. No one really says, "Oh, that was so exciting," but
Yeah.
that's one of our highlights of the week. I think for me, that's what I've been doing. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to go to the grocery store today." I get to see people. But first of all, thank you so much once again for joining us today. So we're talking tonight everything about freelance writing. Let's talk about, so what exactly is freelance writing? Is that an occupation? Is that something that because when you hear freelance writing, you don't really, there's so many kind of definitions of it. Is it a job title? Do you have to kind of apply as when you go to the Department of Labor? Is that your job title, or is that something you can just call yourself, I'm a freelance writer, and no one will think any different of it?
Tony, you can
I mean,
answer
I
that.
may go first. I
Yeah.
may go first.
Sure. Go ahead,
Well,
whoever wants to go.
yeah. For me, freelance writing is it's one job. It's something that's not restricted by the usual 8 to 5 working hours. So something that's good since you control your own time, and something also which is not good since you might be working 24 hours a day. So so Amy.
Oh, okay. Well, as a freelance writer, you can choose your clients. You can dictate your rates.
Mm,
You're not you can adjust your income level if, for example, you don't really receive a fixed salary, so your
mhm.
income every month will
Very.
change.
Mhm.
Also, as Tony said, you control your time. You can sleep. You can sleep in if you want. For our organization, the Freelance Writers Guild of the Philippines, we're going by a definition. If you don't mind, I'll read it for everyone's benefit.
Absolutely, please do.
Yeah. So because this is the official definition that we wanna share with the public. So freelance writers are hired to write or are paid in exchange for written work that is done within an agreed period. Because freelance writers are not employees, they can, number one, set their own rates. Number two, they choose their clients and the number of clients. And number three, they set their own schedules and appointments, um, and their own terms of agreement with the client. There.
Okay. I'd love to delve into those. We'll talk about into more detail those three things. But first, let's talk about the Freelance Writers Guild of the Philippines. Aimee, how did you're the founder of it? So how did
Yeah.
that come about? Can you tell us the story behind that and why you decided to form the guild and what your intentions were when you first started thinking about creating it?
I started that in with a few other freelance writer friends in 2011. But before 2011, I was already freelancing for many years. Not many years, a few years. So during that time, I experienced a lot of challenges in the practice of this profession. So it came to a point that I realized we don't have any agency or organization that we can approach or can come to if we have problems or if we want to consult some issues or talk to experts about certain things. So I thought it would be very helpful for the growing number of freelance writers during that time to have their own organization. And so we started that the Freelance Writers Guild of the Philippines in 2011 with several people like Bebang C and Jofty Villena and others.
Cool, cool. So in a sense, you created it because you needed some sort of governing body that could kind of be the voice for all these writers that maybe when it came to compensation or the things you discuss, rates, and also
Yeah.
working for certain clients. Before we talk about, because rates is something that I'm sure there are a lot of listeners right now who probably do maybe sideline writing, freelance writing on the side, but their issue is maybe how do I price my rates and whatnot. But before we delve into that, I kind of wanted to talk about just membership in particular to become a part of the freelance writers. guild, does that mean that you cannot be associated with any sort of publication or publishing house? Do you have to not be employed by a certain employee, or can anyone who just wants to be a writer be part of it? What are your guidelines for joining? Maybe Tuni, you can answer that one.
Yeah, well, actually, every writer is welcome to join the guild. So we're not strict about you having to be affiliated with a publishing company or a magazine, probably. But well, what we want to encourage is that for those who are not affiliated with a regular company or a regular publishing house, to be part of our organization. In that way, they can be part of a group. Since if you're doing freelance, you're working on your own, and in terms of like if you have questions about compensation, if you have questions about rates and all, like what Aimee mentioned, then if you're working alone, you have no one to turn out to ask things about. And
Mhm.
that's also part of the function of the guild, is to support budding writers and to support independent writers in their field of profession. So
Nice.
yeah, that's one thing we're trying to push, and that's the advocacy of the FWGP.
How exactly do they reach out to you? Is there an office that you have? Is it just through Facebook? What exactly is the process of becoming part of the guild? What is the step by step process for anyone listening right now who says, "Man, I need to be part of I need to be part of this writers guild. What do I do?"
Yeah, good thing you asked. Yeah, so by come January 2022, we'll be posting on our Facebook page. We'll be calling for membership, and we have a list of some requirements, like some sample works that you did for writing, and
Mhm.
we evaluate those. And there's a membership panel who will review the works of these members, and we get to talk to them, and eventually they get evaluated whether they can be part of the guild, or yeah, probably improve more on their skills to be part of the guild.
I
Yeah.
see. So, maybe I can ask Aimee. Aimee, when so Tuni says that when you to be up for approval into membership into the guild, there has to be some sort of you have to send in writing samples and whatnot. How do you guys judge that, or is it a rubric, or is it a grading scale? How do you pass it along to other members of the guild already and say, this is someone that we're looking for? How do you determine what is quality writing or good writing or fit enough to be a member in the guild, for example?
First of all, we have a certain criteria for applicants. No, so it's already set. It's part of our bylaws.
Okay.
You need to be working as a freelance writer for 3 years. That's number one. And then you need to be doing that freelance writing for one or more clients, along with project based work in writing or non-media related fields for 3 consecutive years. And um if you need to come uh from the print, electronic, etc. There's a list of industries or sectors that are included in the on the list of our criteria. And
Mm,
then um there are there are requirements to submit, like a membership form and the samples, as Tuni said.
got it. Got it. Okay, so
Yeah.
basically, there you'll be listing the criteria. So it seems like for
Yes.
people to join, they have to be a little bit more seasoned in terms of their work history in the field of writing, if my understanding is correct. So let's unless am I mistaken, or uh,
Yeah, that's correct. That's
that's
correct. Yeah.
correct, right? Okay, perfect. So I guess my question to the both of you is, if somebody is an aspiring freelance writer, maybe just out of college, they don't have the 2 to 3 years of experience. They don't have a body of work, or a what do you call it, like a portfolio of work that they can submit. What do you recommend as steps, since you're both writers, you love or you've both been through it? how would they develop their portfolio? What are the best tips that both of you have to become a seasoned writer?
Maybe can start. So I started writing. So just a bit background. I started writing when I was in um, writing for as a professional as a
Mhm.
freelance work.
Yeah.
I started I think way back in college. So I did some work for a romance pocketbook company. So
Okay. Nice.
so these are your pocket novellas, and
Right.
I needed to finance my drinking, my
Nice.
gimmick, my pay for my I need some extra money to pay for my Friday nights and my Saturday nights. So
Nice.
and someone offered that, yeah, you can do some a short story, a novel on romance, and
Mhm.
we'll pay you 18,000 for that. So
Wow.
that's how I started. So
Right.
maybe yeah, you can start as early, well, if you know some, and then I went on to write some articles for magazines, and eventually after graduation I did more technical works for social science research, and things like that. So well, you can start as early as probably, if even if you're in high school, if you can write, if you have the passion for writing, then you can start as early as that age, or probably earlier if you have that passion for writing, and
Okay.
and your passion can give you something financial rewards. Yeah.
Hmm. True. Do you care to share the name of the romance novel, or is it forever
I,
going to be a secret?
I don't think so. So I think I did two works for that romance novel, but I
Okay.
forgot the company. So it was
That's fine. How about you, Amy? Amy, can you tell us about your story, about how you got started writing, and maybe some tips and tricks and advice that you would have for up and coming writers?
Yeah, before that, Tuni, hindi ko alam yun, Romance ka pala.
I did submit that to FWGP. So
Okay. Okay. I forgot to mention earlier that we're opening membership also to associate members. So if you
Associate.
don't have that 3-year experience, it's fine. You
Mhm.
can still apply. Actually, Tuni mentioned it's going to be in January, but the announcement of the new members will happen in January. Right now, November and December, we're already accepting applications from possible members. So
Mhm.
if you have that 3-year experience, you can apply as a full member. But if you don't, if you're younger and you wanna gain more experience by
Mhm.
being in the guild, you can apply as an associate member. So we're opening that to everyone. Okay, so to answer your question,
Yeah.
I started writing commercial. No, my first job kasi is all full-time job was as a copywriter for a small advertising firm.
Mhm.
So that was a long time ago, and uh, maybe I think 3 or 4 years later, I put up my own small firm, and then that started my foray into the industry. Um, I learned as I was working. I learned the ropes as I was working. When I had my kid, I needed to be able to work from home because I was taking care of a baby, and that's how I got into freelance writing. It's really occupation that's perfect for stay at home moms like I was
Mhm.
during that time, because you can do the work anytime during the day and take care of your responsibilities in the home. So that's how I began. That was more than 20 years ago.
Nice. So any advice that you would have for someone new who maybe let's say you mentioned that when you became a mother, that's when you started thinking, oh, I need to do something that I can do based out from home.
Yeah.
But now I've seen a lot of my my friends, a lot of my peers, even a lot of on TikTok. I see a lot of young young kids on there who are very creative, and they have a lot of things to talk about and write about. what would you say to them? Even if they don't have kids, for example, now, what are the advantages of becoming a freelance writer in your opinion? What do you love about being a freelance writer besides being able to stay at home? What is why do you love it so much?
Um, you can monetize your passion.
Mm-hmm.
Because I love it because it's writing, and I think that's the only thing that want to do, as a job or as a
Mm-hmm.
profession. So that's why I'm into this line of work. Now,
Yeah.
for younger people who are maybe thinking of going into freelance writing, well, the first question I think that they need to ask themselves is if they really like to write, or if they're really interested in writing and reading, because you can't wing it all the time. You have
Mm-hmm.
to you'd be doing it every day,
Yeah.
at least 5 days a week. So it has to be something that you like to
Mhm.
spend all of your hours, working hours on.
Yeah, and it makes sense. You have to kind of once you decide this is something that I want to do, you do have to hone your skills. You have to develop them over time. Uh,
Mm.
and another question that I would have if I were to be, if I answered your question, I mean, I said yes, I want to do this. I'm dedicated to this. I'm passionate about this. The first question I'm sure that you get as from the Freelance Writers Guild is how do I find work? If it's my first time, so Tuni, for example, you had a friend or someone who said, "Can you write a romance novel?" But not everyone has that out there, right? So, what are the typical ways that somebody who's just getting into the industry, how can they find work? Is social media a good aspect, or do you just cold call, cold email certain clients? What's the best way, in your opinion, or how are things being done nowadays?
I think a lot of people will not like my answer, but to be able to find work, you have to develop the skill first. I
Okay.
think I mean, you can go into into the industry and look for clients without being without knowing what you're getting into, and knowing what how to do things. You have to
Mhm.
learn, you have to read up, maybe join an organization so that you get a feel of how things are done, and build your network. You can probably start with a full-time job, like how I did it back
Mhm.
in the day. You can probably go into full-time employment as a writer, or there are many different kinds of writing, huh? So many different industries, like script writing, copywriting for
Mhm.
advertising, literary writing. So well, that's one way. There are many ways to do it. But I think that's one of the best ways,
Okay.
is to go into full-time work first, or so that you can hone your skills, and you can learn first on the job before you become independent, because you
Right.
can't be independent immediately without
Mhm.
knowing anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes
Okay.
sense. I agree. I completely agree because sometimes for example, for me, if I'm reading something and I'm reading it seems convoluted and it's like doesn't make any sense or the grammar. I mean, personally, I was very poor at grammar and syntax in school. That's why I never became a writer. But whenever I read something, oh man, it's like, oh, I know this person didn't really hone their skills when it came to writing uh,
Yeah.
and I see Tuni, you're nodding your head as well. So I assume you share the same sentiment as Aimee in that regard.
Actually, the younger generation are lucky now that you have
Mhm.
online platforms where you can start. Like you have Wattpad if you're into
Okay.
creative writing. So you have
Yeah.
Wattpad. Also have you can start with that one if you're into short stories or novels. And if you get a lot of followers on Wattpad, you get monetized. So
Ah.
that's one thing. And you also have PenLab if you're into comic books.
Mhm.
You can also upload your work on PenLab, and there's a possibility of monetizing your work on those platforms, Wattpad and PenLab.
That's
So
cool.
yeah, actually, kids are lucky nowadays. Unlike in
Yeah.
our time, you have yeah, we didn't have the luxury of social media back then.
Mhm.
So yeah,
True.
and yeah, if there are a lot of platforms, online platforms, if you're into creative stuff, yeah.
Hmm. I didn't know that about Wattpad. I mean, Wattpad, I know just because of all the fan fiction, and you could write your own stories on there. I didn't know that you could monetize on that, so that's good
Yeah,
to
you
know.
can.
Maybe people listening right now on air and online, maybe they're like, oh wow, I could start my my writing monetization there. That's pretty cool. Okay, when it comes to so when now the important thing that a lot of is on a lot of people's mind is compensation when it comes to writing. Uh, for me, for example, I work as a freelance host on the side, and for me, whenever I deal with someone, it's always, "What's your budget? How much is your rate?" And I say, "Oh, what's your budget? How much is your rate?" That's always the back and forth for us. Is it similar for writers out there, and how does the writing guild in the Philippines how do you perceive dealing with rates, and is it standardization? How do you deal with it?
At the
Actually,
moment,
go ahead, Amy. Yeah.
sorry, nagsabay. At the moment, we don't have standards, and
Okay.
everybody really just charges what they want,
Mhm.
and that's a problem. That's one of the
Right.
problems that we are
Address.
facing in the
Mhm.
yeah, in addressing in the industry right now. There's no standard rates, and rates can go from 50 centavos per word to
Mhm.
20 pesos per word. It's
Wow.
that it's a really wide
Big
discrepancy.
gap. Hmm.
Yeah, it's a big gap.
Okay.
So that's one of the things that we are trying to address, but it's well, we've been doing that for many years, and it's a really difficult issue to face, because there are many factors that you have to consider, like the seniority of the writer, the type of client that you're dealing with, if is it
Right.
local or international, etc., etc.
Okay.
So what was the question again? Sorry.
Oh no, that
It's,
yeah,
did I
you
answer?
answered it. You
Okay.
answered it perfectly. I just wanted to know if
Yeah.
if you guys did standardization of rates, because I felt like that would be a very difficult thing, like you mentioned, because of the seniority of the writer as well as the client that might be handling it. But
Yeah.
Tuni, what are your opinions on asking for compensation then? If there is no standard rate for clients, how
Yeah.
you yourself, how did you determine your own rates, for example, and what's your advice to a writer who is coming up with their rates for themselves?
Well, when I started, so I was offered a sum of 18,000 pesos, and I think it was good enough, so I accepted
Mhm.
it. Yeah, but nowadays I have to look into the company, and I have to get to know their budget, since you can't demand that much if their budget only allows this much. So it's a two way thing. It's a negotiation, actually. So you would propose your rate, and then the company that your client would also propose a rate, and you have to agree on at a
Mhm.
certain point on what's the go what's what will be your rate based on this type of work that they're asking you.
I see.
So
Can
Okay.
I
it's
add
Okay.
something to that also?
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's really very important for freelance writers to determine their hourly rate, to set your hourly rate, and that computing for your hourly rate will um you will be looking at many different factors, like how long have you been writing, what are your expenses, how many hours do you spend writing every day, those things. There's a formula to compute for the hourly rate, and that's usually how you begin your negotiation. Like Tuni said, I agree with Tuni that it's a negotiation. So you present to the client your rate, and then if the client can afford it, then you can adjust if you want, but if you wanna say no, you're free to to refuse it.
At your discretion. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know, and I'm sure that brings a lot of people peace of mind. But I think another thing now that I have to ask, when it comes to freelance writing, what exactly is the in terms of taxes and everything, does the guild handle that and help their members deal with that in regards to occupation, like what do you put on your tax forms, your BIR forms? Do you help with that as well, and can you maybe help you maybe talk us through it as a freelance writer? What exactly are you defined as according to the government?
Yeah, as
Well,
freelance writer, we also need to file our taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And for beginners, uh, that's usually one hard thing to handle, since
Yeah.
so much bureaucracy in the government, and how do you file your taxes. So as part of the OD, organizational development intervention of FWGP, so it also assists its members and young writers on dealing with this matter. So what do you do with how much should be paid to BIR? How do you deal with receipts and yeah, things like that.
Okay. Good. Good.
There are
Yeah.
also tax platforms, independent like Taxumo and ano ba yung isa, I don't remember the other one,
Right.
that you can use by paying a monthly payment, and they can handle all your tax related activities for you.
Mhm.
Personally, I use an accountant because I
Right.
find that it's easier for me if someone else handles my taxes and other computations, because as writers sometimes we're we yeah we're not good with numbers,
Yes.
Yeah.
so so better let another person do it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. And I guess a good topic to talk about also is the consistency of landing work. So both of you, I'm sure, have consistent work lined up. You have clients you've built, and like Aimee said, you have to develop your skills first. But once you do that, gaining a solid list of clients, consistency must be key. What are your tips for writers out there to find clients that can become long-term clients or long-term partners, et cetera,
Mhm.
et cetera? How do you develop something so that you never have to worry that, oh, will I find work next week, next month?
Number one tip ko, wait
Yes.
wait 20 years. You can then you'll have that solid
Okay.
base. Okay. Hindi, seriously. Oh, Tony, ikaw na.
Uh, well, my number one tip would be do good on your work.
Okay.
Do good on your output, and if your client will be satisfied with your output, then that client can vouch for your work, and you can get it's a network. It's network building, actually.
Mhm.
Like for me, most of my clients would be on the social science research side, and I started with a research project in Mindanao, and I think I did my best on that research project, and then eventually it branched out. Someone called me and, oh, well, I heard about your project in Mindanao, and can I get you
Mhm.
for another project on this site? So it's something like that. So it's more of um, bring out the best in you in whatever you do. So don't
Right.
shortchange your client. Yeah,
Okay.
that's one good thing that everyone has to do with their output. So don't ever shortchange your clients. Yeah.
Good tip. Good tip. You mentioned earlier, Tuni, about for example, you can monetize on Wattpad. I've seen a lot of ads on YouTube and Facebook and even Instagram about freelance working sites like freelancer.com and Fiverr, for example. What are you, both of you? What are your opinions on getting jobs from those kinds of websites where they pay per project? How does that work? Actually, I've never done it before, so I see Aimee here. You're like, I don't know. Do you have any? You have thoughts on that, Aimee?
I've never done that before as well. And I think there's two things lang. I think you just choose the legitimate companies with,
Okay,
and the bigger ones probably. And then number two thing that you have to look out for is the rates. Don't
the rates.
don't accept rates that are lower than your what, daily, monthly,
Hmm.
daily or hourly rate. Yun lang. That's
Okay,
the only
got it.
thing.
Yeah. How about social media in general? Facebook and whatnot there's a wealth of resources. I just used my own personal experience because as a freelance host, for example, I've been able to get gigs because of Facebook posts in groups. Is there something similar for writers? Are there groups of writers? Are there Facebook groups with writers in them who share, like, hey, I have someone who's looking for this, needs this amount of blah blah blah, this amount of words. Is anyone willing to submit? Is there something? Is there a body of communities like that you're aware of?
Yes, yes, of course. And one of them is the groups handled by FWGP.
Okay,
So
great.
there are projects we share those projects in that group, and if anybody, any member of that group would be interested, then they can they can get in touch with that company. Also, there are a lot of Facebook group right now. Like you have a Facebook group on editorial work. You have a Facebook group on translation work.
Mm.
Uh, you have a Facebook group on doing illustrations for comics. So, and these groups would at times would offer job opportunities.
Wow.
And yeah, you just have to pitch your work, and you might be lucky to get the project. Yeah.
Nice. Good to know. Good to know. And when we talk about submitting your work and whatnot, I assume one of the biggest issues that you could come upon as a writer is someone stealing your work, right? So you talked about copyright 101 for freelance writers. I understand it's the segment of FWGP for the first ever Philippine International Copyright Summit, which is happening soon, correct?
Yeah, next
See,
week, next
next
Tuesday.
week. Okay, can you tell us about what will be discussed, and maybe just a short kind of background on protecting yourself, protecting your work, and copyright infringement, etc.? What
Okay,
exactly will
so
happen on November 23?
okay, the IPOPHIL is having the first ever Philippine International Copyright Summit next week from November 22 until 26th. It's all online, so there will be so many a lot of activities, and our segment is happening on Tuesday, on the second day, at 10 a.m. So we have a 1 hour segment on um to talk about copyright 101, the basics of copyright for freelance writers. Ayun. And I also want to invite the public to also check out the other days, because there will be days for film, for other for publishers, for and for other sectors. So
Mhm.
it's a really a big celebration that's
Yeah.
happening next week. Yeah.
So how do they participate again? Where can they join in on this? What links or pages should they go to keep up to date?
Nakamute ka,
I think
Tony.
I think you're muted, Tony.
Sorry.
Okay.
The registration link can be found on Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines web page, Facebook page. So
Okay.
you just need to register, and it's a whole week of event.
Mm.
FWGP will be talking about copyright, introduction to copyright. So earlier
Right.
you asked how things about people stealing your work. So we'll be discussing that on Tuesday.
Okay.
So yeah, please do join us on Tuesday. That's November 23. It's 10 a.m. to 12 noon.
Right. So everything about copyright, any questions that aspiring writers might have, or even seasoned writers, I'm sure still have
Yes.
questions
Yeah.
about copyright. So everything will be discussed over there. I guess a quick, if you could answer maybe one right now. When it comes to copyright, is everything you post online, is it already your work? So if I posted a story on Wattpad forever, for example, rather, do I have is that my can some is that my property? And if somebody takes that, is it like a copyright issue if someone copy paste that because it's posted online on a it's not posted by a publication necessarily? Do you know the answer to that? Out of
Copyright
curiosity.
starts with creation. So at
Mm,
the onset of whenever you create things, well, that's when the copyright starts. So,
okay.
like for example, if I posted a short essay on Facebook about writing romance novels, and
Right.
well, technically that content would be mine. Copyright
Yours.
would be, and uh, I'm not quite sure with how things are circulated on social media, but
Yeah.
I think if you can prove that content originated from you, then that
Mhm.
copyright should belong to you. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. That's a great answer. I answered my question
Mhm.
perfectly, and I think all other questions will be discussed as you mentioned during those
Yeah.
dates. So to everyone listening, make sure to tune into that. So I guess the last part of the interview, I just wanted to talk about once again what I really want to push here is for everyone, anyone who might be listening, because there are people who listen who are maybe at home right now and they're trying to find another source of income. Maybe they really are passionate about writing, and I mean, you really touched it. You really said it best when you said you need to develop your skills. You need to
Yeah.
kind of find, be able to create quality work. So, how exactly can they do that if they're not in school anymore? Because in school is where most people learn how to write. But now, some people are out of school. Some people are for example, like me. If I wanted to improve my skills, I'm done with school. I never want to go back. But maybe I want to learn how to improve my writing skills. Where do I go for that? Can FWGP do that as well? Do they help with that in that regards? So
Yeah.
yeah, let us know your thoughts. How can they improve?
Yeah, one of the things that we do in the guild is to offer workshops or training for members and also the public. So that's one way you can enroll. There are a lot of free courses, free webinars these days. And if you want to pay, if you have money to pay for courses, there are many local and international trainings also that you can enroll in. So that's one way. And another way is to practice. Like, for example, if you are into essay writing or if you are into blogging, travel blogging, let's say, lifestyle blogging, then you can practice by writing every day on your blog. And if you are feeling confident about your skills, then maybe you can submit to magazines or newspapers. That's also one way to build your portfolio. um yeah, I think that's it.
Great, great. Is blogging, by the way, in your opinion, is blogging still, something that's heavily done online? Because the shift has really changed to video and audio
Yeah.
formats. But is blogging still alive and well in certain circles, in your opinion?
I think it is. So I still
Oh,
see a lot of blogs, especially travel blogs.
right.
But yeah, you're
Mhm.
correct about content shifting to like TikTok videos and music,
Hmm.
and also on Facebook Live. So it's
Yeah.
more of content has shifted to more of video, audio
Video.
and video. But blogging's still alive. Yeah.
Yeah. But in a way, Tuni, to create effective, let's say, social media video content, a good writer can really make all the difference. Wouldn't you agree? Right?
Yes,
Creating
yes,
the
yes.
right?
Mhm.
Especially if you're structuring the content. Like if you're
Yeah.
doing a vlog, if you can structure it properly, and which is also a skill, it's a writing skill, structuring your
Mhm.
content. Then
Yeah.
you would be successful in your vlogging. Yeah.
Okay. And what are your thoughts on both of you actually? Because I mentioned earlier my weakness in school when it came to writing in class was grammar, syntax, etc. And I keep seeing all these
Mhm.
advertisements. You've probably seen it. Grammarly, where it corrects your work and it does it for you and it tells you where you did wrong. Can artificial intelligence really make you a better writer in your opinion, or do you think that's just it just gives you common corrections and it won't really make you develop you until you really just do it yourself?
It helps a little, like
Okay.
10%.
Okay, that's not bad.
but,
That's not bad.
but but if you wanna improve your grammar, I suggest you read
Read.
books. Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's how I learned how to structure my sentences, by
Yeah.
reading. So if you
Great.
don't like reading, then you have a problem as a writer. I think.
So you have to read up a lot. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree also with Amy that like sites like Grammarly can help on the technical and mechanical aspect of writing, but in
Mhm.
terms of the creative aspect of writing, it's something that you have to develop yourself. One way, yeah, through reading. So if you read a lot of stuff, you can differentiate what's a good writing and a bad writing, and
Right.
eventually that can lead you to doing good in writing.
I see. All right. Well, I mean, we can see already to everyone listening right now. You can see already the wealth of information that we've gotten from Aimee and from Tuni. So before we invite you once again, before they invite you once again to join the FWGP, I just wanted to ask Tuni and Aimee, your final thoughts when it comes to to becoming a writer right now. Convince everyone who's on the fence, saying, should I take the plunge into becoming a writer? I mean, you said 20 years, baka 20 years until you have a solid client base, but convince them, tell them about why it's so great, why why you created the guild in the first place, or why you're part of the guild right now. What is it about being a freelance writer that both of you are so passionate about? Care to share your thoughts? Tuni, why don't you go first?
Yeah, actually, financially, it's really good for me. It pays for my beer.
Yes, it does.
So same thing when I started long time ago. So I just need something to for my Friday nights and Saturday nights. And yeah, I think it's really good. It's financially rewarding for me, especially if you have big corporate clients.
Hmm.
And it all, since I also enjoy writing and I also enjoy reading, so it's really something that's I'm passionate about, and that passion is converted. It's monetized, like what Ivy said. Yeah, your passion can be monetized. Yeah.
Yeah. Well said. I work hard to pay for my beer too, so I relate with you on that aspect. Ivy, how about you, Ivy? What do you want to share with everyone?
Wag na lang. Wag na lang kayo No, seriously, I don't wanna say things that will make people think it's easy because it's
Okay.
not. That's why the guild
Yeah.
is here, because there are many
Exactly.
challenges. It's a lonely occupation
Hmm.
and you'll be facing a lot of challenges. Oh, 'di ba? Parang it's not very inspiring, no, what I'm saying, but
Realistic, which I think is good to hear.
yeah, it's realistic. But if you want to make a lot of money, don't don't I mean go somewhere else. Maybe you can go into technology or AI or I don't know. Yeah, but if you really want to write, and if hindi ka maawat, then I suggest you join a guild or you join an organization like the FWGP. Our email address is fwgp2011@gmail.com, and we'll help you um, go through your journey as a freelance writer. Also you read every day and write every day. Get into the practice and develop your skills. Yan.
All right. And any are you your social media page? So you mentioned your email already. But are there social media pages that you care to share where people can keep up to date? Maybe they're not ready to join the guild yet, but in the future they want to touch base with you. Where can they find you online as well?
Yeah, so our Facebook handle is www.fb.com/fwgp.org. So that's you can follow us on that page, and you can follow us for updates for like webinars and trainings and workshop. So it's fwgp .org on
.org.
Facebook.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Tuni, Aimee, for there's so many more questions that could be answered, that could be asked and answered today. But I'm sure everyone out there has already kind of, they already know, hey, I want to look into joining FWGP. I want to look into becoming a better writer. So thank you so much for sharing your insights, for sharing your knowledge, and we hope to have you back soon. Anyone you want to say hello to? Maybe you have friends, family, guild members that are listening. Any shout outs?
Yeah,
Kumbaga.
shout out. Meron ako. Meron
Hello.
akong listahan, sorry. Our Vice President, Connie Makatuno, and thank you also to Katie Velez and Leslie Del Castillo and si Cecil, of course, Cecil Baltasar and Rizal Dunuan, and also my friend who's having a birthday next year, Benji Santos.
Happy birthday. And Tuni, anyone you want to say hello to?
Well, I'd like to say shout out to the members of the Freelance Writers Guild of the Philippines. So we love you all. Yeah.
Nice. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank
We
you.
hope to see you, after the pandemic. We hope to bring you into the booth and actually have you here. Tuni, maybe you can bring some of your antique
Be
books or
beer.
the books that you found, your special finds. But to everyone out there, join us again next week for more hot conversations here on Heard on Thursdays. My name is JC Tevez. Have a wonderful evening and always keep it locked right here on the Monster. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, JC.
The